Welcome, my friends, as we begin hour number 3 on the Bob Rose Show, along with Greg Cassidy. It is 8:07. Your time check is brought to you by Hayes Jewelers, where the answer is always yes. Inflation numbers coming out soon, not looking good. And only 1% of those polled say Biden's economy was excellent. I'd like to know who those two people are and where they derive their income. More on that coming up. But first, let's connect with our Congresswoman, Kat Cammack, on the Bob Rose Show. Good morning, Kat. How are you?
Good morning, Bob. How are you doing?
Doing fantastic. Hey, one of the things I want to ask you about, and I hope it's not a curveball, but I'm getting a story about Iran, Russia, China running war drills upcoming in the Latin America area. Heard anything about that?
Yes. You know, what's crazy about that, Bob, is years and years ago, I was at the Naval War College and ended up writing a thesis on a new axis forming, and it was going to be between Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, and Venezuela. And now we're starting to see real indicators of that really dangerous alliance forming. Now, what that means is that the United States is going to be put into a position where do we continue the FONOPs, the freedom of navigation operations in the Indo-Pacific region to try to maintain some stability? We can't forget the fact that 80% of global trade goes through that area. But you look at what's happening here on our own home turf. You've got a crisis. You've got inflation through the roof. You can't afford gas. Groceries are incredibly expensive and getting scarce. We have to take care of business at home before we're going to be taking care of business abroad. But we are watching to see what's going on because this is a very, very dangerous time. Our enemies do not fear us. They don't respect us, and they're going to start pushing boundaries. And it's going to be incumbent upon us to have our stuff together to respond if there is a direct threat to United States sovereignty and security. You said on my show previous that Joe Biden bought and paid for by the Chinese Communist Party, and since that time, we've seen evidence and more evidence and more evidence. I guess we have to wait till the midterms and you Republicans take over before there'll be a real investigation between Hunter Biden, his father, the president, and dealings with China. Yeah, I mean, think about this. We have strategic petroleum reserves that are going into a global marketplace to prop up the CCP. When we're standing there paying, average of $5 a gallon of gas nationally, and we are pulling our strategic reserves out and sending it to the CCP, are they high over there? I mean, I know that normally that'd be a tongue-in-cheek question, but I legitimately have to ask. This is crazy. I know we've got crack pipe, distribution centers popping up around the country courtesy of Joe Biden, but this is insane. What are we doing? And when you talk to some of the colleagues on the left, they don't even know what's going on in the White House. They don't know who's running the show. And there's a lot of concern for the ability of this administration to respond to serious national security threats. They've proven time and time again they can't handle a domestic agenda. They've fumbled the ball every step of the way. And now they're going to go back to the old failed playbook of the Build Back Broke agenda and try to bring that back and abolish the filibuster to take over our elections, to do abortion on demand, and every other little Green New Deal wish list item that they want. It's nuts.
And so now Joe Biden's going to go to Saudi Arabia, who he called a pariah, and now beg for oil. What's that about?
It's embarrassing. I mean, truthfully, this is embarrassing. We had such an incredible foreign policy when we had Trump in the White House, the Abraham Accords, and I've heard this directly from ambassadors in Middle East region, that they were so proud of the work that was done under the Trump administration, bringing that peace into the region and really opening up those trade routes and establishing those relationships. And Joe Biden has done nothing but continue to erode our standing in the world and put additional pressure on our allies in the region by now going and bending the knee to Saudi Arabia. What in the heck are we doing? This makes absolutely no sense. If the Green New Deal initiative is to have green energy, why would they go to the producers of energy that have the least regulated environment, that can't produce it as clean or efficiently as we can in the United States, It's because it's never been about the Green New Deal. It's about who gets the kickbacks and when. And we know that Joe Biden, he is got his hand in the cookie jar. Hunter Biden is probably one of the most corrupt people that we know is in the administration today. And of course, if what came out about Hunter Biden with those videos showing him buying crack and naked on the beach and soliciting for prostitutes, if that were a Republican, that's all people would be talking about, but not a peep out of the leftist media. It's a double standard, and it's a double standard that we can't afford from a security standpoint or from an economic standpoint. And that's why taking this House back in November, along with the Senate, is so important.
Yeah, I hear you. And it's not like somebody caught him on secret camera and it's some kind of grainy image. I mean, he videotaped himself doing these drugs and hanging out with the prostitutes, and his laptop is just a treasure trove of all kinds of information, including, an audio recording from his dad saying, hey, the New York Times coming out with an article. It's online. I read it, I think you're good. I mean, of course he knows about his overseas dealings, but he told us straight-faced, he didn't know anything about Hunter's overseas dealings. However, he did tell the truth one time. He said he was going to get rid of fossil fuel in America, and it looks like he's following through on that.
They certainly are. And, 8 times to date, we have been on the House floor with an energy independence bill that would restart our domestic production here. And every single time Nancy Pelosi has rejected that bill, all they're doing is this smoke and mirrors nonsense. They'll put bills on the floor that are entitled something like lowering food and fuel costs. But you actually read the bill, and it does the exact opposite. And it increases fuel prices, and it increases the cost of all the inputs, which drives the cost of our food. And so people then call me, and they're all upset saying, oh, my gosh, I can't believe that you voted against this bill. Well, it's because I read the bill. And they don't want you to read what's actually in the legislative text, because then you start to see that all of these things are just designed to grow the size and scope of government to make people dependent on these programs so that the Democrats can stay in power. That's all really it comes down to. And I just wish that we could get back to a place of single-issue bills. And I wish that members would sign off on saying, I have actually read this text. Not what a third-party source told them to do, but they themselves have read the bill, because there's so much bad information out there, and that's driving bad policy. So it's pretty crazy. We'll have to see what happens with Saudi Arabia and Biden this week, but I have my doubts that he probably won't mention or question or push back against the Saudis with regard to our American journalists that the Saudis murdered. So we'll put a pause on that and see how things play out.
One of the other things I want to know is, I feel like the DOJ's been weaponized. We know about Agent Strzok and the FBI, but I believe there was a huge undertaking in the January 6th things. I think there was infiltration either of our, clandestine operations, CIA, NSA, and or DOJ, FBI. The Gateway Pundit has a piece that's come out and claims that, the panel knows all about for the Proud Boys, for instance, their own infiltrator, FBI infiltrator, said these guys are not dangerous, and yet they move forward to prosecute. If the Republicans get the advantage after the midterms, do you think they'll be looking into this whole how this January 6th thing is a giant piece of propaganda and a setup?
Yeah, I think that's 100% going to be part of the agenda. I mean, we've talked at length about the fact there needs to be accountability, and there needs to be accountability for the leftist movement that has set a double standard, right? They incite violence and then turn around and point their fingers at us. When you look at this sham of the January 6th committee, and that's what it is, a total sham, broke 232 years of precedent by disregarding the minority being able to put their own representatives on this panel. They've cherry-picked what videos they want played and what tweets they want displayed. It's all a total political propaganda sham. If it were real, they would be disclosing Nancy Pelosi's communications. And I'll continue to say this all day long. Why has Nancy Pelosi's text, emails, phone calls, and her staff's communications from the day of, the day after, and the days leading up to January 6th not been released? And if it's more about the security that they're trying to get to the bottom of it, why have none of the Senate recommendations after their report came out, why have none of them been implemented?
No.
It doesn't make any sense. And then you look at all the people who have been denied due process. There will be a reckoning, and there's going to be a lot of investigating that goes on to restore the faith in the American people that our justice system is going to work the way that it was intended. And so there's absolutely going to be accountability, and there's going to be consequences. And for people who think that, we just need to forget about it. No, there have been a lot of Americans who have been denied due process, and that is a cornerstone of our constitutional republic. So that is going to 100% be on the docket and part of the agenda. My sense is that we're going to get about 2 good quarters of legislative activity before everything turns to the presidential election.
Well, we appreciate it, Congresswoman Kat Cammack on the Bob Rose Show, and just keep fighting the good fight. We're counting on you to help lead the charge.
I appreciate it. Thanks, you guys. Have a great rest of the week.